Okay, welcome to another edition of Between Two Nuts. Today I am sitting down with Pop Culture Pb. And thanks for coming on today, PB. We're going to be talking a little,
Thank you for having me.
we are going to be talking about woke culture, the acid test of living in a society that's pretty, quote, woke, if you will. Um,
Oh God.
yeah, I know. It's going to be an interesting episode when, but yeah, so it's more or less that experience of being different, not sharing every single political view, or better yet, personal view, or having an opinion that's completely opposite of pick anybody in society. And the drama, the drama that comes from this. And I know that, we've talked in the past about, well, not just, political stuff, because there's this phrase that you and I've heard many times from people that have been either on a panel or on a video, lecture, TV. They say, well, I'm not politically active. But then they proceed to, uh, I guess, bitch about how they don't want SJW type behavior. They don't like the woke mentality ruining their films or their franchises or their interest hobbies, picket escapisms, which I hear a lot about. Um, they don't want all those things in there, but that's what that is politics. So I'm like, you don't want to be politically active, but politics is in our lives regardless if we like it or not. Um, if and my positioning on that is, well, you got a social security number, and or even if you are illegal, you're paying taxes, and you're for your food or for your rent or for whatever you purchase automobile gas. You're driving on public streets. All these things are funded through politics and slash the people, which is controlled by politicians. So we are
Yep.
politically active whether we like it or not. So it's kind of like we have no choice for this crazy train. But
Correct. We're all on the train together, and you have to make a decision
hmm
either way. And as Rush says, as in the band, even if you decide not to make a choice, that's still making a choice.
absolutely, unfortunately you're kind of screwed one way or the other. But for those of my audience members, there might be a few that, or even in the future too, that are not familiar with your channel or who you are. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I would like to say hello to everybody in the future. I'm glad that you could join us. And yes, I am PB, and you can find me on Twitter and on YouTube at the handle PopCulturePB. It's very easy. It'll be what pops up right at the top. Nobody else has that slot. I made sure that it was semi-original, and I wanted to use my own nickname. And most of the videos that I do is leaning towards the comedic side, but trying to give an original take, at least in the original content. That's what I would call it when I'm speaking in a video. But I also do High Council highlights from when Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and Ethan Van Sciver from Comic Artist Pro Secrets and Jeff from World Class Bullshitters get together on Tuesday nights and have their High Council streams. I pull random clips off of that and add certain pictures and GIFs and text to it to spice them up a little bit so that it's more than just a plain highlight, so that you get a little extra laugh out of it than what they're bringing to you. But yeah, other than that, I just like to talk to people on the internet about the bullshit PC stuff that's going on, which is why I put that in my intro. Not PC, just PB. That's me.
Well, I think it's the best summary ever. Because in the end, a lot of this stuff, our society's kind of turned into a place where you're not given permission to be yourself. Even within our community of people that we hang out with or associate with, I talk to a lot of different people, but in the end, and so do you, but in the end, people are going to be themselves or they're not. There's still going to be superficiality to some extent because people are trying to win hearts and minds instead of just naturally being themselves. But I think within the SGW or NPC or whatever culture of plague, um, they aren't authentically themselves because they're regurgitating crap that's fed to them. And how do you feel about, I guess, from being a young person, okay, let's say when you were, let's say 19, to where we are now, what is your take on the direction our culture has taken here in the United States?
Oh my gosh, that's going back two presidents, all the way back to George W. Bush. What was it like when we were just living in a world of Bushisms?
Oh man.
God, that was wonderful. Wasn't it great when we lived in a world when the worst scandal was the president can't remember, fool me once, shame on me, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me, you can't get fooled again. God, I love that one. That's my favorite one.
That was so bad. I was like, oh my god, this is that drunk guy that got invited to the White House and stayed.
Exactly.
It was under Bush, it was like, oh man, there wasn't a day that didn't go by where I was cringing just a bit on the inside, a little bit more. And I think
Just
post,
a little bit, but at least you could, at least to me,
right.
where I was in Wisconsin, I mean, yeah, there's always been some wackos down by Madison. That just is how it is, but they weren't as widespread as they are now, and you could just go around and say whatever you wanted, and you'd never have the, random person that's looking over their shoulder like, you just said what? You can't
Mm-hmm.
say that. You can't say the word midget.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
say black person. And I was like, what do you mean black person? Of course they're a black person. He's from England. He's not from Africa and he's not from America. So what do you want me to call him?
I know. It's that insanity of like, oh well, we need to have just the right title, and you have to. Well, he's from the UK, so or he's from, let's say, Great Britain. He's a black British. What would it be? A Britannian? A black Britannian?
Yeah, an African Britannian.
I don't know. I'm just
I
like,
guess.
and the fact is like when I remember, unfortunately, yes, I am older than you, but not entirely in the same. We have a lot of things in common because of that 9/11 factor.
Right.
You were old enough to know at least about it. There were some kids
Correct.
scary enough that were born at that time. I mean, my son was born. My eldest was born in '99, so he was 2 roughly, and
Okay.
he was not going to have a memory of that, but I mean, you have a memory of that time, what it was like before 9/11 and how life was. It was kind of like we were in like a safe comfort zone, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I personally never flew on a plane before 9/11, but
Mm,
I know plenty of people that did where you could show up at the airport half an hour before the flight leaves and be on the plane 10 minutes before it takes off.
yep.
20 minutes from start to finish. Now they tell you to get there, what, 4 hours early or something?
Yeah, it's like 2.5 to 3 hours are there early or something, depending on what airport. It's
Right. And now,
ridiculous.
yeah, and the cultural change of living in if you see something, say something.
Yeah,
Well, I don't typically want to say anything ever. I just want to leave people alone and let them live their life
right.
because that's how it used to be all the time. It's just leave that guy alone. He's doing his thing. I'm on my piece of land. I mean, not my piece of land. We were kids or whatever
Right.
at the time in the 90s. It was, just wake up and watch cartoons, man. Don't worry about what you got to call the cartoons. You just
Mhm.
call the cartoons he and she. We don't have to worry about what the pronouns are.
Right.
We don't have to be told, like I was just on This Week in Bullshit with Proper Jeremy. Apparently, there are gay characters in Star Wars Resistance. One of them is a chicken type alien, the other one is a pig type alien. How are you supposed to know that the characters are gay? That's what I asked them. And they said, well, you don't know that they're gay unless you're told they're gay. So that's why they had to do a press release to let everybody know that these two characters in the show are gay. And I thought to myself, why are you telling people this? what difference does it make to the story? And that would be, I assume, well, we got to let you know that we're virtuous enough to put gay people in our show. We have representation because we have gay chickens and warthogs.
It's the forced factor of that, right? So it's like, why can't they? Like I remember when I was I'm aging myself, but when I was around the time I was about to graduate from high school, Ellen DeGeneres came out of the closet. So
Aha.
they had you know, I had quite a few friends. I was a part of the LGB. Well, this is before T and Q and all this other stuff, but LGB, okay, community at the time. And one of my friends, they were having a party because they, you know, some of my friends, these are younger, you know, gays and lesbians that had just come out of closets in their own lives, and some are homeless, some are living with friends. You know, every background is very complicated. So it was a very big deal to them to have some kind of, at that time, representation coming out of a closet in a very public way, and it was hilarious. And
Right.
at the same time, though, it was a victory for them because they knew that Ellen DeGeneres was gay in real life, and that for a long time she wasn't able to outwardly express that, and that made it more of a, you know, thing, a much more meaningful and I think symbolic gesture for especially younger gays at the time. And so I was like, that's cool. You know, like, good for her. Be yourself. That's all that really matters. But it's very difficult to be yourself in that industry, especially when you're supposed to be this perfect model turned actor slash porn star in the closet. Like, it's all fucking nasty. And nobody get, you know, in the end, I don't care for it. Most people I know don't care for it. You know, that kind of bubble reality that they live in. But it's always kind of been spaced out, meaning you stay to your side, we'll stay to ours. Your job is to be jesters for the court. Okay? The rest of us are just the peasants that are attending the Colosseum. Your jesters do your job. That's your job. Nobody gives a fuck about your political crap. Nobody cares about how you raise your fucking kids. Unless you're beating the hell out of them, okay, and you end up in jail, then the scoring that you receive is exactly what you deserve, okay? It's a
Yep.
natural, you know, public court of opinion on certain things that endanger others and so on and so forth. Now, after 9/11 happened, there was a significant shift, and it was huge. I mean, I'm not a Bush fan at all. I'm anti-Bush. You know, I find him as an
So what
individual.
you're telling me is you shave.
I do. You know, that guy,
Couldn't help myself.
I know it's too easy. Too easy. But George Bush, the whole family, man, I don't give a damn. I think that they're full of shit. Then, it's all personal reasons. I lived in the state of Florida, had to deal with Jeb for too long, and I don't, I don't give a
Mr. High Energy himself.
what a twat. But please, he's all. Oh my god, I gotta get that sound clip. Please clap. Oh, that guy. I was like, that's a sad man. He's a sad, sad little man. But but after Bush though, everything kind of got. It was like it went extreme right in a very different. Not like the kind of extremism we have now. It's a little different, but I believe it was headed in a very negative way because of the what do you call it, the anti-Muslim shit, you know. And I was just like, what is wrong with these people? You know, I lived in Arizona at the time, and I don't know, you might have heard about this story, and it was very big because I had some family that worked at Boeing at one
Okay.
point, and it was in Mesa, Arizona, where they worked at. And now, Boeing has major government contracts for people who don't know that. Everyone kind of does, but if they don't, they do all like the major, like NASA. First, it was NASA, and now it's, you know, it turned into other types of government contracts. So they had a lot of government contracts. Well, one of their employees went, I think it was a day after 9/11 or the day of 9/11. I'm trying to remember which it was, but I believe it was basically within those 2 days. An employee was very upset about what happened with the towers, all the media crap that was going. It was very intense, but he lost his shit, and he left work, drove to like a Circle K, and shot and killed one of the clerks because he was a sheik. He was wearing his turban, and he thought he was a Middle Eastern Muslim, and he shot and killed the guy point blank in the store. And this employee was a mechanic for Boeing. That was kept all the stuff was like out there, but then it wasn't. It was kept very quiet because of the government contracts and all these things. But I remember hearing about it because my family knew the person, and he lost his mind. Like 9/11, because of all the media hype and all of the to be honest with you, the fear and the misinformation, and then the conspiracies and the things that were coming out that they weren't. You know how it is with the media. It's just everything. And
Oh yeah.
this guy lost his freaking mind. I mean, he was probably going to go AWOL with something. Let's not, lie. But I do think the media absolutely pushed this individual over the edge. I do believe in freedom of press, but I believe there's a responsibility to that freedom of press, which since that occurred, I always paid attention to media. And over time, after the 9/11 nonsense and the anti-Muslim stuff and the security checks and the guy trying to light his pants and his shoes on fire, that kind of shit. there there right, I remember I flew from the west coast to the east coast to attend a wedding. And because I was going into Miami, or no, I'm sorry, I went to New York City to see some family there, and it was less than a year after 9/11, so I got to go to the site, and that was insane. um, Never forget that. But then I noticed that after I had flown from Phoenix to New York, I was on a watch list. I didn't know this because I
Oh,
didn't
so
know.
they got to keep their eye on mad squirrels.
Apparently so, and I didn't know I was until one of the attendants slipped up when I went to because I was having to mandatorily check in at the counter. I couldn't do, the check in at the kiosk. Um,
Okay.
and I was like, why the hell can't I do this? And I was getting pissed because I flew a lot. I traveled a lot back then. I still do. Just it's expensive, and I hate fucking flying. So that's one benefit of 9/11, I guess, is not liking to fly. But when I would try to check in, I couldn't. I went up to to the actual service desk, and she was like, she had slipped that I was under a certain flag, and I was like, what do you mean? And of course, she tried to backtrack, and then she finally acknowledged that, yeah, because of my flight history, I was being watched. And I was like, what big brother bullshit is this? You know? And I was pissed, and I had to attend a wedding in Miami. I flew from the east or from the west coast to the east coast, and I'll have you know that I almost missed my flight because they went through my physical luggage with a glove because I was on that list. It was the most bizarre.
Check in for all of your nuts.
Oh yeah, and they made me throw out a razor that I use for shaving. Okay, uh,
Right, man, that's so that you can't be throwing out razors. How are you going to be anti-Bush?
exactly. I can't be anti-Bush without the razor, assholes. So they're like, no, you're pro-Bush. Let's give us that. Like that makes sense now. But they, but that was the weirdest experience to me. I was like, what the fuck did I do? Like what did I do? Guilt by flying, by affiliation of flying? But because of where the terrorists had been at and they hadn't disclosed this, they were in Phoenix or Flagstaff training, and that's where they actually got they
Aha.
got their flight schools out there. And so they were watching everybody, and there's a very high Middle Eastern population in several states. And at the time, now there's a lot more, obviously, you know that, and I know this,
Right.
but back then it was a lot of them were in Arizona. And once again, I didn't care because the racism and stuff like that, I grew up around that, but I didn't what's the word, I didn't see that in Arizona as much. But I also believe it wasn't as diverse as it should have been to some extent. Naturally, from people migrating and things like that, we really didn't have a lot of, let's say, African Americans or even blacks from
Right.
overseas. We really didn't have any of that. Whereas the East Coast and also in some parts of the Midwest, it's a melting pot now because of immigration. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially in
Like
your region.
Minnesota is a Minnesota's probably a little worse. Like especially Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where both of those two Congress ladies that are part of the squad are from.
Oh yeah, the Broad Squad. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So, I mean, I count my lucky stars that I'm in the northern half of Wisconsin instead of the southern half with all of that's where we keep all of our wackos.
Now,
on both sides for the majority.
I was gonna say, on both sides, there's so many wackos now, but at this,
Yeah, like I don't need this far right bullshit either.
right, because then you start getting into that.
Like it goes, like you said, back then, it swung all the way to the other side where it's, that's where the real, if you see something, say something started, and everybody's like, oh, that person has their face covered, they're a terrorist. I was like,
I'm showing a photo right now
why?
to the audience. It's a AOC,
Okay.
and what are your feelings on that? That when you brought up the Broad Squad, because um,
Oh, the Broad Squad.
yeah,
Jeez.
I mean, you and I've talked about it to some extent, but it seems like that particular group is taking things even. They say they're progressive, which are some type of progressive, like I'd say extreme left. I think of what used to be quote
I think,
normal Democrat. I don't know what the hell.
sure, no, like a normal Democrat, to me, or at least what I used to think of it, is JFK. But I don't think that he would be welcome in the Democrat Party today.
No.
They'd be like, no, you're way too radical with your centrist to center right beliefs. Like, we can't be having you in here. You're not socialist enough for us.
Right. I mean, and I
Be like,
remember.
you feel like you need free markets. What are those?
Remember, you'll know this very well. Like the introduction of the phrase alt right.
Oh, Jesus.
That
Yeah,
I mean, from what I okay originally, because people were saying originally the phrase alt right did not mean extreme Nazis and all of those things. What alt right meant was I don't want to be a part of the Republican Party anymore because they're absolutely
right.
insane.
Alternative.
Correct.
Exactly.
It was not about the Nazi thing. The Nazi thing started with, well, all of the protests that were going on against what they were claiming were white supremacists or Nazis or whatever, whatever it is. I don't know. It was a multitude of different rallies and protests and claiming, well, they're being Nazis. And of course, then you had these fools within the extreme right that were coming out and saying, yeah, I'm alt right. And I was like, damn, there it goes. Watch that hijack. Like whatever movement
Yep.
that originally was supposed to be, like just like the Tea Party. That was grassroots before it got hijacked once again by
Yep.
people looking for that cash and flow to grab the movement. Because it was an organic idea started by this one individual, a very patriotic man, the Tea Party movement, just so people could come forward and have their opinions against policies and
And
procedures.
it worked in 2010.
Yeah, it did. And then all of a sudden it got hijacked. So with alt right,
Yep,
that
that's what they
phrase,
do.
this I'm not defending what the alt right is now. The alt right now is filled with fuckery. Like you have,
Oh my gosh.
I,
You're putting it. That's the simplest and easiest way to put it for people to understand it. Yeah, it's full of fuckery.
mm-hmm. And it's not at all what
Because I
initially.
don't need to be associated with fucking these wacko skinheads.
Oh my god! And the thing is like I feel, and this is okay. I'll see what your opinion is on this. Do you feel that the amount of, like, let's say Nazis, lack of better words, and white supremacists, these groups have increased in number, or is it because there's just increased interest that's what's brought them out of the woodwork?
I would say that I would bet that they would actually diminish in number, but with the way that social media works today, their voice is louder.
Yeah.
Like it's hard, let's say in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, because all of this is before social media, before the internet blew up and you can go into every chat room and rag about anything or rave about anything. It can
Mm-hmm.
go both ways. Plenty of people out there say stuff they love.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, you gotta drive around and say like, "Hey, Do you hate Muslims? Do you hate black people? Come join my group. That's that would entail some work to do. Whereas nowadays you can just pop on the internet and just, be a little subversive with your tweet so you don't get banned, and you can get a whole bunch of people together to be freaking racist, which I don't understand. I thought that we were moving past this, which I still think that we are. But when you give a small group a megaphone, they're very loud. Whereas if you take the megaphone away from the small group, nobody can hear them.
Right. And
Like if you were able, which is never going to be possible, to get all of the racists, all of the Nazis, like whatever, on both sides. Like I don't believe in reverse racism because racism is racism. It doesn't matter what color you are.
mhm, it's true.
Okay? So if you're able to get rid of all of those people, then you wouldn't, or just off of the internet, you wouldn't hear from them. We wouldn't hear how everybody is such a Nazi because they don't like The Last Jedi because women.
And
I'd be like, okay. So I don't think their groups are getting bigger. I think they're just getting louder.
yeah, and I've thought about that too. It's gotten to the point where, social media, I agree, is given a lot of these groups like a bullhorn to do whatever the hell they want, which in retrospect too is dangerous because you don't know. Here's the thing: is giving platforms in the sake of freedom of speech. I understand. I'm not against freedom of speech, and even if it's stuff I don't agree with, or
Absolutely.
and I don't agree with quite a bit that's rolling around on the internet. That's for certain. And I think that with the rise of more of these voices, I lack of better words, that are out there, I've seen more and more calls for resegregation, um, from the white side, and not, excuse me, not the white side, from the minority communities, black communities, whatever you want to call it. They've actually, like, the universities are looking for they call it safe spaces, and I'm like,
Yes,
why are we going backwards? Like, that's the part that's
exactly.
very hard for me to grasp. Like, I thought we were past those days of, segregation from, geez, forever until what, the 60s, and then it was just a fight, to get those rights to people so they can simply attend a university or go to a restaurant, do simple things despite the color of their skin, be able to marry who they want to
That's
marry. But we're going
right.
backwards now where they're saying, well, a white person shouldn't marry a black person, and a Hispanic shouldn't marry this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like they're calling, it's like a throwback to a different time. So it's like, not only are you instigating a rise of voices in a very nasty community by creating shit that's not there, or becoming that helicoptering parent, but you're also pushing us back in time. At this point, like I said, we're going to end up, like, I'd like to go back to the Viking era since we're going so far back in time, so we can just start pillaging the shit out of people.
Right?
Let's go way back. But I definitely
Survival
don't.
of the fittest. Darwin this shit.
Oh yeah, but I mean, have you noticed that I've seen more of that call for segregation, whether it's implied or said directly? I mean, have you noticed
Oh, I
this?
totally noticed that, and I thought the exact same thing that you did, which was why are we trying to implement policies that are the exact policies that we had to write laws against?
Mm-hmm.
Like they said, you cannot go to this school. That's what it used to say however many years ago. And they said, no, no, we have to integrate all of the schools. Anybody can go to any school. And I would assume that any rational person would say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't anybody be able to go to any school? Like if we're talking about a public school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, colleges, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about paid schools, you need to be able to afford to go to that. There are way more, if we're talking total number, there are way more poor white people in America than there are poor black people.
Mhm.
But per capita, there are more poor black people than there are poor white people.
Correct.
But nobody wants to look at total numbers. They only ever look at percentages, which is another thing that's really annoying. But yeah, to go back to the first point, I don't understand why they want to resegregate people. Like, I've watched plenty of TV shows on network television, on cable, where they're constantly talking about these safe spaces and people creating groups that are exclusively for POCs, people of color.
And that phrase alone, I was like, what is this? Like, what is P?
Exactly,
I was
when they introduced that, I was like, how many times are you going to change a phrase? Because now we'll use this one for a couple years and then that'll become racist too.
and to me that's a people of color sounds very
Super racist.
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
was like, what?
And
What do you mean people of color? Did they come in a 64 pack of Crayolas?
and the thing is like that phrase is to me, okay, racist. And it's not. I didn't grow up being told that. Okay, well, no. This is what I was told growing up: is that we all come from different cultures. So inevitably, you're going to meet people that you aren't going to understand. They aren't going to understand you. There might be a cause for fear, or what do you call it? Feeling I don't know, vulnerable, I guess is the best way to put it as a young person. Like you don't understand why people act a certain way or maybe how they speak, or you don't understand their culture or where they're
Okay.
coming from, right? But you don't hate them or dislike them or mistreat them based on their appearance or because they speak another language. You know, in the end, what it's about is the values of the person, how they treat you, and how you treat them, and the respectability of treating them as a human being, not as a, a certain group or a belief system. None of that was ever taught to me. But I still saw racism and I heard, these things that I don't know as a kid. We all kind of grow up in households that are all different, different management. And there's always, everyone's family has at least somebody in it that was racist. Inevitably. There's like a grandparent or there's an uncle,
Oh, yeah.
there's always somebody, and as a kid you go, and my mom, like my grandfather had his moments, as did my grandmother too in some ways, because they world specifically for my grandmother was World War II. So she had a problem with Japanese, but a lot of that is the indoctrination of the military and of the propaganda that was around the war,
Yep.
and she wasn't born that way at all. um, but these are things that were provoked in life and brought into her at life, and that was primarily because of the war, just like how they souped up people post 9/11 with the same rhetoric. Okay. um,
Oh, yeah.
and the problem is that, yeah, if you're telling them, oh, these people did this to us, and you're sending them to Iraq because, hey, that's where bin Laden was, right? And they sent all these young men and women to Iraq. They will over time have their own prejudices developed as they're there dealing with the citizens or dealing with extremists or whatever scenarios or groups they're dealing with. And they're going to carry that back. But eventually it comes full circle where they realize, you know what, this is bullshit. But the problem is in our society right now is that there isn't any real threats. I'm not saying we need those threats. I'm not trying to be all spooky. But um, it's almost like they think that they have so evolved that now they can bitch about using buzzwords like people of color and passing. That one absolutely pisses me off. That phrase pisses me off. Like if somebody is of mixed heritage,
Wait, passing is it's a phrase?
yes, it is. It's a buzzword. Um, Basically, they'll tell someone like, let's say you're like more lighter complected skin, which I am. Um,
Okay.
Never mind your history or what your family history is, or better yet, your actual genetics. If you look like you can lean more as a white person, meaning you could pass for a white person, you are passing, therefore you're disregarded. And I remember, and let me point this.
Oh, holy shit!
Yeah,
I never heard that one
I
yet.
have, and I've heard it.
Oh my
I've
God.
heard it in arguments, and I've actually been susceptible. It was like I was in the middle of an argument, debate, not an argument, but just a discussion slash debate with someone, and they said, "Well, your opinion doesn't matter because you're passing anyway." And I was like, oh, please enlighten, because I wanted to hear their definition of it. I was like, can you please enlighten me what your definition of passing is? Well, they start going into the history of all this bullshit about, back in the day where they used to, look at the color of skin and they had these color, like, kind of like platelets of different colors that they would actually put up to people's arms to determine if they were white enough to attend schools or attend different functions. It was very evil and very eugenics based. They did the same kind of shit in
Okay.
Rwanda with the Hutu and the Tutsi genocide before all that shit happened. The Tutsis were light enough to pass, you see. So the Belgium treated them
Ah,
better. There's your history lesson right there. And that's what led up to their genocide was racism, developed from a third party that came into the region and started separating them by Hutu and Tutsi. Okay, there's more to it politically, but that's a nice little summary. Anyway,
right.
but
Wow.
so the passing crap, I knew about that. But the fact that they brought this up and then tried to say, well, that's you're in a passing group, your opinion doesn't matter because that's their way of dismissing you in some cases, not all. And I said, so basically, you're telling me I'm mulatto, so therefore, because I'm mixed enough where I lean more lighter, I don't matter and I should die. I'm just clarifying. I'm just bringing it home. I'm not trying to be extreme. I'm telling you history. Let's have a conversation about how each group has treated people because of the color of their skins, whether this is Native American, whether this is in the black community, the white community, it doesn't matter. Okay? This shit has gone on for so long. It was well before this person's balls dropped or for a female, boobs came in. Whatever you prefer. But the fact that somebody would
Right.
would go in that direction and take that position, I was shocked. I was like, "Oh my. This guy, this girl, you really?" And they were totally on board with this idea and I said, "So you're
Wow.
you're saying these horrible words?" Cuz to me, mulatto is a very derogatory term and it's a regional word too, but that's another story. But the point is,
Right. Yeah, it's totally what? Southern American, Northern Mexican?
mhm, mhm. A nice what do you call it? I like to call it like a fiesta salad of
Oh,
different.
I thought you were gonna go, it's like a Rio Grande term.
Woo! No, that'd be hilarious. No, it's like a salad really of all these different cultures, and if you go to places like Venezuela or some of the
Okay.
other South American regions, okay, they have such a diverse culture of so many different whether it's immigration or it was, the natives that were there initially, but because of so many different, groups coming in and not migrating, you end up with these very colorful, ethnic groups. And everyone's going to have different shades of color. No one's going to have a fit about color of skin. And then we have the United States,
Right.
There's a great article that's on Chaos. It was written by, oh my God, Gregory. I think it was Gregory, if I'm or William. I'll have to look at it. I apologize ahead of time. I did so much editing over this weekend, but he was talking about his experiences with, he grew up in Venezuela, and they didn't have that kind of racism that the United States has. Where
Okay.
the stuff has to be forced. Meaning like, oh, we have to make them black to make them somehow validated. In his culture, it was like not that wasn't the issue. You know what I mean? The whole race, quote unquote, thing. Race is going to be an issue to some extent within every culture, but not anywhere close to what it's like here in the U.S.
Right. Like if you're trying to sell suntan lotion, don't try selling it to black people.
It's just in the end, taking this back because I went on a tangent. Um, there is this immense amount of buzzwords that they've brought back into light that weren't there before, that were honestly on their way out the door. I mean, there's always going to be closet racism. I don't know if
Oh,
that's
yeah.
you and I both know
I
that.
don't think it'll, I don't think we'll ever be able to get rid of that.
I mean, that's human nature. People are naturally, I'm not saying it's okay per se. What I am saying is that by nature, people are going to notice one another's differences. I remember, um,
Aha, okay.
what do you call it? Even as a kid, you notice those things, but you don't judge people on the color. You just notice their skin is darker than yours, right? Or you notice they're speaking another language, but you never go out.
Right.
There was never this fear factor involved in it with me. Like as a kid, I just went, "Oh, that person's black," and it was fine. My grandmother was very ahead of her time in that context when it came to, well, not only just how women should be in a workplace, as an example, or have responsibilities, but how races should be treated. And she did not like the maltreatment of whether it was the nurses' assistants slash orderlies or other nurses that she worked with that were mistreated by superiors because of the color of their skin, meaning they were more likely to have their hours cut or be messed, just basically harassed on the job or disrespected on the job. And
Right.
my grandmother's head nurse, so she really didn't put up with that shit, and she had a reputation, so that helped keep a lot of that bullshit aside. But she absolutely hated that type of prejudice. Like that just pissed her off. Especially, women obviously was a big one for her because she's female, but towards the race themselves, whether they're Hispanic or even Asian. She didn't care. In the end, it was about, are they good workers? Are they good people? Do they have, are these good people? Are these my coworkers? Are these people helping me? I'm helping them. We're working in a workspace. Who's like she didn't want anybody messing with them or making their lives absolute shit because of the color of their skin. She thought that was the dumbest form of intelligence. She's like, and she told me, she's like, this is the reason why some people always stay plateaued. They don't move ahead. They don't get better as individuals. When you start focusing on color of skin, is when, and that's all you're looking at. That's how you're making your judgment calls. That's when you're failing up people in jobs to get them into better positions.
Right.
This is the reason why it's a toxic and unintelligent decision to base things on race. She goes, you look at the qualities and the skills of the individuals. Affirmative action, I'll be honest with you, it's like I've known more people it's hurt than it's helped,
Oh
personally.
yeah,
You
from
know? Oh,
I
what's your opinion?
understand, right. I understand the reason why they thought they needed to do affirmative action, but
Right,
it absolutely did not work the way that they wanted it to. Because the
right,
analogy that I always use for it is affirmative action works the same way that socialism works, because socialism as an idea, as a way of life, is an excellent thought. If
correct.
all of us just came together and we all just did our part equally, and then everybody went home at the end of the day with a, cheeseburger and a potato, everybody would be happy.
Right.
It'd be wonderful, except people are humans, so it will never work. There's always going to be one motherfucker who's like, well, if I don't dig my 20 feet of ditch, I'm still going to get my cheeseburger and potato, so I'm going to go take a fucking nap. And then the guy next to him notices it, so he also does it. And then pretty soon you got more than half of the people not doing anything, so you have less than half of the people supporting all of the people, and it doesn't work because people are selfish. That's just inherently how some people work. Not all people, some people. And it only takes some people to corrupt more people, and then it snowballs.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with a person's inherent biases. You're always going to have inherent biases.
Yes.
Everybody has them, no matter if you're white, black, red, green, yellow, purple. I don't care what color you are, you're always going to have inherent biases. The only people who don't aren't people, they're robots.
And even
Those are the,
animals, like regular dogs and cats have biases. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
animals in general have biases, and I'm not saying it's great. I think it's it's human nature to instinctively go us and them. Okay, and I'm not saying racism by any means is acceptable because it's surely not. It's something that we can't allow discrimination to blind us from other people around us because we're going to lose opportunities, we're going to lose friendships, we're going to lose a way of evolving past that basic bottom line tribalism that we experience where it's like must kill, like must mate,
Right.
like that kind of shit. And we have to be better people. But it's hard to do that when you have groups of people coming in now that are like, oh, well, we want to start, these socialist type activities because socialism is the way to go. And that's going to somehow eliminate the black and white is by having this utopian society, wherever the hell that exists, I'll let you know. Um,
Yep.
I have never heard of a socialist society, 100%, that has represented the people properly without
Nope.
corruption at its base. And with human nature, it's always going to be corruption. But I've never heard of an actual social society that did not eventually go into a form of fascist, regime or communism at the more extreme.
Yep.
I don't know of any of that. And there's this somebody I had listened to recently. I think it was probably Joe Rogan. Yeah, it was on Joe Rogan.
Okay.
It was Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, and Penn
Ooh.
and Penn Jillette's a very interesting dude. I don't always
Yes.
agree with him on a lot of things, but I do love listening to him because he has very interesting insights into things that I may or may not agree with. But it's always nice to understand a perspective, right? I'm cool with that.
Yes, he has a very original point of view.
Right, and it's gonna be
Yeah, he's
something.
tall.
Yeah, you're like I have something in common. No, um, but yeah, like but Penn had said a statement that, and I don't know, I don't agree with the statement, but I want to hear what your feeling is on it. He said that um, we live in a time now where we have outgrown physical wars, where war is outdated,
Ah,
and I thought this was a very interesting comment because I thought about it for a while. It's one of those I heard this like weeks ago, but I had to like sit back about and think about that logically. I'm like, have we outgrown war? And I thought, like as far as, guns ablazing, get out the foxholes, blowing up stuff. I don't think we have. I think that's a good. It's a very generalized assumption, and it kind of comes for in a way. It almost feels. I understand where he's going with that, and he did kind of elaborate that he just feels like we're beyond that now intellectually. And I think the problem with intellectuals is that they don't quite grasp that the world outside the bubble they live in is filled with all types of people from all types of countries. Nobody in the end wants war. But if someone comes into your town or village or wherever country and starts raping and pillaging, do you uh, defend your land or your people or your family, or do you permit them to do as they will because you believe that war is outdated? Because by and large, what we're talking about, there's good tribal instincts instinctually in human beings for survival that we all do naturally, right? Like with this woke society crap, our natural reaction is to be like, no, you know. So we have a cultural war.
yep.
We have like this culture war that's going on right now, has been for a while, and it's being fed by the media. It's being fed by Hollywood. But in the end, they're all in their own intellectual bubbles. So they're not out in the streets. They're not among the peasants because the jesters think that they're as high as the kings. You know what I'm saying? We're untouchable.
Correct.
So I believe that, at the base level, human beings don't necessarily think that same way as far as like day to day people. I mean, what do you think as far as from your take on that? Do you think we've outgrown like physical war, like with guns ablazing?
Well, if we're talking about going from, let's say, one stage to another, if we would, let's use the analogy of going up a flight of steps.
Mm-hmm.
If the physical war, let's say, like a, World War One, World War Two type of war, where even then it wasn't just about destroying the ships and planes and airports and stuff like that. It was still kind of about killing the people.
Mhm.
And then, if you go back to like the Civil War, it was exclusively about killing people. It didn't matter about destroying a weapons depot or anything. You just kill as many people as you can. That's how you win the war.
Mhm.
I think we're definitely closer to a time in history where it's exclusively going to be a cyber war because I think we have made it to a point, at least on a bigger scale, if we're talking like America versus a country instead of like, I don't know, if Iran went to war with Afghanistan, I don't think it would be a very high tech war, let's say,
Right.
right?
Right.
But if it's somebody going to war with us, we're going to go in and as the allies, let's
Mhm.
say, we're going to try and take out your equipment, your battle stations, that type of stuff, and try and kill as little as possible, but cripple you in such a way that you're not able to fight back. Because you're not going to run with your fists at a line of tanks.
Right. I mean, we are in a different world where like especially with the China, the Chinese hacking, right? And supposedly the
Right.
Russian hackers and all of this other nonsense. The thing is, I think the United States, if we believe Snowden, um, has been doing this type of behavior of infiltrating other systems in other countries for different reasons. And of course, this is well before even the cyber tech thing, and we were getting ourselves involved. Like, there's that book. I apologize, I can't remember the author. I'm a terrible person, but it was Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and they were. It has a
Okay.
great book, by the way. Highly recommend it. But he was talking about the type of espionage the CIA was doing in South America. Getting people, off of what do you call it, out of their positions politically. Uh, People having quote accidents by plane, and then
Okay.
doing regime changes basically, and it was all in the
All
same.
of their black ops.
Yes, exactly. All the
Not
financial.
not African American ops, black ops.
Indeed. But yeah, and it was an interesting take on it. So we're still doing that behavior, but I believe I think it connects directly to the cyber discussion. I think they were headed here for ever, ever and ever. And I don't think now, as far as where we're at in that process, I think the higher up you go, the more red tape and more obstacles are there. I mean, there's been so many whistleblowers that have come out about the cyber spying, not only on other countries, but within our own country. And that's, do I believe that? Yeah. This stuff was called conspiracy like what, less than 10 years ago, and now it's a common knowledge thing that yeah, your TVs and all this tech and so on and so forth. When I was talking about this with Perp and LB, is like there's so much infiltration now into our regular lives with technology. It's without a doubt that cyber war, you can take down an entire what do you call it, infrastructure of a country if you can get into the nuclear power plants, for example, and everything is so
Oh
deep.
yeah.
That is very possible. And they've had breaches of security how many times now? From
Oh my God.
I don't know what
I have no
country.
idea.
Maybe China, because China, China's one of the big ones. But there's other countries throughout the world that target the U.S., vice versa. It goes back and forth. But when we live in this age of so much, I would say, as far as physical war, do I think we have outgrown that, or we've somehow intellectually changed? Maybe, but I still don't think so. I think when it comes down to it, if the internet goes down, I don't believe for a minute they're going to be like, the internet's down, guys. Looks like we can't do anything with these nukes. Put the missiles back.
Internet's down. Let's go home.
I don't think it's going to work
Turn
like
this
that.
ship around.
Right. But it definitely does reflect on our society as far as this. I wouldn't call it ignorance because that's not the right word. It's just this belief that we have surpassed certain things that are within our regular nature as human beings that I believe isn't going to go away, if that makes sense. I don't think our natural,
Oh no.
like when you were talking about the Civil
No, it's
War, it's a
yeah.
it's a very good point. Is it? For a lot of them, this was about protecting their properties and their families, and they're like, I'm going to kill whoever I need to kill, you know?
Yep,
And they were
on
drug.
both sides.
Absolutely. It
Like
was.
there were plenty of people, not to stick up for the racism, but there were plenty of people in the South
Hmm.
that were not fighting for racism. They were just fighting for their piece of land.
Right. I mean, and it's a sad point that we have to say this is like, oh, the outcries about the Confederacy and the statues. Oh my God! Like,
Uh,
what is your take on
that
that?
that's oh, on statues. Oh my God, that
Hmm.
this is definitely one of the things that I feel every American should have an opinion on because it affects you.
Hmm.
I don't think statues should be taken down because it offends somebody now. If it didn't offend somebody 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, why are you taking it down now? How did it just magically become offensive? It didn't. You changed how you're looking at the world. That's all that changed. And guess what? The way that you're looking at the world is the fucked up way. The woke way of looking at the world is not correct. I thought in the 90s, when I was a kid, we were moving past this, that we were moving past the checking of boxes, that we were going to get to a point in life where you didn't have to say what color your skin was. You just had to write down what your address is because they don't care what color your skin is. We don't have to say, well, what percentage of the black vote did you get? What percentage of the Hispanic vote did you get? How about just what percentage of the vote did you get in that county? Because
Right.
that's where you went and campaigned. That's what matters. But apparently, that isn't what matters to people that are allegedly woke. They are the ones that have to point out, well, it was a black man getting discriminated against. I was like, okay, well, what happens when a white man goes into a black establishment? I'm sure there are a handful of white people out there that get discriminated against when they go into the hood in Oregon. Inside joke.
Oh shit. Oh,
I couldn't help
that's
myself. But
beautiful.
no, yeah, I mean, the statue thing, it pisses me off because when you tear statues down, you tear down what your history is.
Right.
How about go up there and when you're showing the statue to the person that it offends, instead of them being offended like, oh, well, he was fighting for racism in the South. Okay, well, how about unpack that statement because that's not the entire story. It's definitely part of the story.
Yeah, it's
If we're
part.
saying that
Exactly.
owning slaves is definitely a racist fucking thing, I would assume so at any stage, like when the Egyptians owned Jewish slaves, that seemed pretty fucking racist.
Yeah. And I mean,
Like,
and the thing is,
not good.
right. And here's the thing is like the history of the Civil War. Like there was that phrase you hear it a lot. I say it a lot too. Is winners write history books. So there was a lot of political stuff that was going on that led up to Lincoln finally being given permission to even go in the route of freeing the slaves, and that was more a strategic one than it was for the right reasons. But at the very, it was more or less to decapitate the South's power structure, because they knew if they made slavery illegal, that would take away a lot of the finance and economic backbone of the South and deteriorate quite a bit. And not only was it pissed off the
Yep.
Southerners, it pissed off Northerners too because they owned slaves a lot. Just like not as much as the South, but there's
Yep.
always been animosity between the North and the South. I mean, from the beginning of the colonies. So, the ones that were, the different, we're talking about the colonies back with the Pilgrims, the whole nine, and the ones that came in later. It was because the Southerners that went into those areas to establish their colonies had it 50 times harder than the Northerners did because of the swampy areas and just the aggression with the natives and the whole nine. So having slaves coming in, and those were basically whether it was indentured servants or slaves, that was the only reason they were able to really get the colonies going, get those states up and rolling, and with the outside assistance to some extent. But a lot of it had to do with that. So the colonies of the South that became Atlanta and so on and so forth, you know, they were massive in power, and more so than the Northerners realized that they could do. You know what I mean? Because they had, kind of like turned their nose up at those, quote, bottom shelf colonists because of the areas that they were inhabiting at the time. Because they really got struck really hard, 50 times harder than the Northerners did. And that says a lot considering how much the Northerners went through with their colonies, right? With Plymouth and all that. And
Right.
it's very interesting, though, because that's been going on for so long. But to go back into the Civil War, I'm summarizing shit a lot. But to go back into the Civil War thing, the fact that Lincoln did that, I mean, I'm glad that he did. It should have been done. I know that he wanted to do it prior, but they didn't. We're talking about politicians who, in some cases, some people praise. I'm like, these assholes are not your friends. You need to understand, even with Lincoln, as much as, we can respect him as a individual, his politics were a little all over the place, just like a lot of these other assholes that were in office over time. They're politicians. You should not make them your idols. Um, it's dangerous to do that with any politician because they are human. They are going to be fucked, and God only knows what diaries are going to come flying out of somebody's cellar in 50 years. We're like, we have a discovery now. You can't talk about Lincoln. That kind of shit. Um, but with the statues, I do believe that time does progress. Okay, do I think that they should be torn down? No. What I do think is they should take the statues out of those public squares or wherever the hell they are and put them into museums and to
Okay.
kind of, what's the word, to preserve that history so we are reminded not to repeat it, not destroy history, but to catalog it, put it into a museum. That way it's understood. But by defacing and denouncing, and I understand there's anger and animosity and this inbred in like embedded hatred for racism in general, and I'm glad for that because we should have a disdain for it. But unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing we don't got a bunch of people running around going, you know what, that racism, that's some good stuff.
right? Like I don't. I the only To be honest with you, like when all I first time I really heard about any of this animosity towards like as a kid, I'm in the East Coast, but I'm not considered in the South. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Kiss my ass. Um, I I I, I had moments of dealing with actual racism, and I wasn't expecting it. Because I'd been around such a mixed culture for so long, you're just used to it. But I mean, certain types of racism are pretty frightening, and meaning with white supremacy and KKK, that kind of shit. It's disturbing because it's such a at the foundation of it now, especially, it's hate. It's a deep seated like I don't know how to. It's very disgusting. Like whatever it's made of, it's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit more aggressive. It's much more spit in your face. Does that make sense? And it's very different.
Yep.
It's very uniquely different than, I mean, regular racism is disgusting and atrocious and just fucking stupid. But when you put it into a mass group of followers in the context of, let's say, skinheads, there is a sense of like absolute disdain and hatred at the deep at the core of it, right? It's really gross. It's very toxic, um, and just the fact of I've talked about things that have happened to me as a young person, and my last name is Jewish, and I am not a
Okay.
practicing Jew, but because people hold a belief that Jewish is a race, yeah, I get to deal with very strangeness with that that I wasn't anticipating. As a kid, I didn't quite understand like words and phrases and things like that were thrown at me, like Jesus killer. What the hell is that? Right? And I was like, what the hell is that? I didn't know. I was like a little kid. I was very little the first time I heard that, and I didn't understand what that
She was
meant.
like, no way, man. Jesus is fine.
Right. I mean, what the fuck? Anyway, I didn't know what it meant. I was just like, I didn't understand why I was being blamed for someone's death. I had never even met this guy. Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Very confused as a child, and as you get older, you figure these things out. But then well, honestly, I went through a phase where I was like, I want to understand why people hate each other. Like, I want to understand why these social groups don't love, like, there's hatred. Uh, and that was very enlightening because at the very least I could say, okay, well, I understand why they're idiots, and I can understand why this person is a complete dick to me or has mistreated me or has said those things to me. I needed to understand why there was this hatred. Now, I don't, saying they're stupid is a good catch-all phrase, but to understand their motives and where are they getting this from, that part of it. And so I
Right.
I think to bring it back to the Confederacy thing, I remember there was, and there still is, this huge outcry about the Confederate flag. It just hasn't gone away, and I don't really know. I don't know. That whole like outcry about, oh, we need to get rid of the Confederate flag. It doesn't need to be flying over this capital or that capital, and it's very offensive. And I don't know if you've heard that. Well, I'm sure you have.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it.
And it's gone on for years, and every so often they bring it up again, and they get a hair up their ass. Now, and I understand you want to do these things once again. It's history, and do I think that the Confederate flag should be pulled down? I don't. Um, I believe that's historically relevant to those areas. People can see it as racism. They can see it as patriotism for their state or those who died. Because regardless of whether or not we can claim all the Confederates that died were racist, but in the end they were Americans, they were civilians, many of which had no affiliation. Not just the soldiers, we're talking entire families that were killed. Okay, during this crap,
Yep.
right? Oops, accidental bomb. So you're claiming that everyone that died during that war between the states don't matter, should be spit upon and forgotten because they're all racist, allegedly. And that's, to me, that's what the
Absolutely.
flag represents those people. It's not just, oh, well, you think it's a mark. Now, you got these backwoods rednecks that throw these Confederate flags on their cars and think they're like, reinventing the wheel and shit. In the reality of things, you're, either you're respecting the flag or you're being a douchebag. Okay? And there are men and women that died for that flag. There are families, there on both sides. That should be held as a reminder that we don't want to repeat that again in our country. But if you keep dividing us by race and by our systems and our groups, you're asking for fucking problems. When you start dividing people by race and gender and all this bullshit, you divide the country with the hate. And hate is by saying, well, you can't acknowledge this. You have to say it like this because it's more what's the word? Sensitive.
It's more politically correct.
Right. And I mean, as a kid, as a child, this is a good question. As a kid, when you wanted to, uh, when you remember asking your parents? Let me rephrase this. When you were a child, do you remember the first time you asked your parents, "Oh, what is, why is that person's skin darker?" Or why is this person different than me?
Oh, geez. I don't know if I ever did.
Right.
I
Now,
don't think I ever did. I assume that I just, being the fact that we had TV and movies the whole time, like either, pop in a VHS or, I'm old enough that we had some beta tapes. They were awesome. That's what I watched The Empire Strikes Back on for the first time ever.
right.
Or, watching stuff over the antenna. I'm sure that I, saw at least a handful of either black people or Hispanic people on some show and was just like, oh, huh.
Right.
Like, didn't I guess it And you would think for where I grew up, northern Wisconsin, we had when I went to school, same building for 13 years, walked in the same set of doors, just had to, keep working my way through the school as you went through grade school, junior high, high school. The entire time I was there, I think we had one black family. That
Mm,
was it. Like there's not a whole lot of black people up in my area, like at
right.
all. Like they don't move hardly farther north than Green Bay. That's about
Mhm.
it.
And
So I don't see him around. Like when General Zod came up here to visit on 4th of July and we were doing the stream on that late night, I
mhm.
said, well, how many, we were out and about today and we went all over the place. How many black people did you see today? Zero.
Mhm. And
Because I mean, they're just not around, but I didn't have these thoughts in my head of, well, they're different, therefore they're inferior. I
right.
never had that thought. Granted, there are probably too many people in the area around here that have that kind of thought. And I was going to ask you a question if I can be permitted. Does the
Oh
interview
yeah.
go both ways? Can
Oh
I
yeah.
do that?
Yes. Throw it back.
I mean, what do you think about people that aren't in southern states? None of their family is from southern states, at least that I know of. So it's like people in my area, Wisconsin's about as far north as you can get, and they put the Confederate flag on their car.
Ooh. Well, I guess it's all about intention. You know what I mean? Like for some people, it's like the once again going back to that good old boy mentality where they're like, "Yeah, the Union, they're going down." You're like, the war's over. But um, I think it just depends on the intention of the individual. I think for some people, it's been unfortunately over the past, I would say, 20 plus years, probably longer, there have been groups that are more white supremacists that have clung to the flag as a symbol of that racism because that is what they have been fed. They're very much a manufactured hate, right? I
Yes.
I believe that that's been propagandized over the years and it became a stigma and then it just blew up and then you have people that feed into that shit with themselves being racist. I think they can go fuck right off. I think it disrespects the people that died for that flag. Most of those people would probably spit on them for just disrespecting their memory as it is. Um, but I think it's about the intention of the flag. If somebody wants to put it on their vehicle and they live in a northern state, have a good day. Good luck. um, you're gonna deal with some
That's
shit for
about where
that,
I am.
right? I
So I
mean,
said, I was like, wait a second. I was like, why are you putting this on your truck? And they're like, well, you know why. And I was like, yeah, I think I know why. And I think that it's a stupid fucking reason. Like, what are you doing it for? You're
right,
from Wisconsin. You've been from Wisconsin your whole life.
and
Aren't your cousins Mexican? What the fuck?
right, and that's the thing. It's about the intention of the person. Like I knew an older black couple, and they had a Confederate flag they would fly, and because they had pride in their own personal history in the state, it had nothing to do with racism.
Aha.
It had nothing to do with the Confederacy in the same way, but they had people in their family that they protected. It was hard, a long story, but they had families within their family that protected one another during the war, and they had great pride in being a
Okay.
part of the South, um, despite all of the other things that were being claimed politically and the things that were going on. And they were like, they understood that slavery would become outdated even then, meaning they knew that that was coming regardless of the fucking war. The war did not start over racism, it did not start over slavery. That's a lie.
Right.
And so they carry that like I got homage to their family and to their own personal culture and their own history, and it's a reminder for them that they don't want the states to ever fight again. Number one, but two, innocent lives were taken and drafted into that war. It was not all people who wanted to go willingly by any means, and so I think it depends on the intention of the person that puts that on their vehicle. If they're doing it for the purposes, of under like heritage and pride, okay, I understand to some extent. But you also need to understand that because that symbol has been hijacked by hate groups, it is ruined, it is spit, and it's burned it on fire. And the fact that SGWs and other people who are ignorant as hell, um, turn around and say, well, of course it's a symbol of racism. Well, it's been turned into one through manufactured politics and the winners write history type shit to justify the number
Right.
of dead that came out of that war. That was by far the most. There's so many laws and legislation came out after that war to protect families from drafts. Like, the whole Saving Private Ryan thing. There's your
Right.
example. you know,
Yep.
I mean, that war wiped out entire families. It left a lot of people without husbands, children, family. And I think that we find ways to justify death counts, whatever war it is. And that goes for whether it's a physical war or a cyber war. Collateral damage is always justified somehow through the political lens. And I think it's fucking evil. It really is evil because one day it could be you, it could be me, it could be my children, it could be your family member, whoever it is, um, that could be drafted into a war that they don't want to be a part of. And the risks, I believe, in the future are going to be significantly higher if we go into it thinking that we've outgrown physical wars. I think we have a lot of spoiled intellectual brats who are so used to being put into a bubble, they don't quite understand the ramifications long term of human nature and how inevitably we all go for like nature finds a fucking way. you know, People always find a
Well,
way to
it's a safe space in their bubble.
right. So I mean, but I went on a tangent. But it's when it comes back to the Confederate flag. I mean, I have mixed feelings on it because I understand both sides of the story. Absolutely. Would I fly a flag in front of my house? No, hell no, I wouldn't. I don't. I have family that were on both sides in the war, and I don't want to get involved in what that stigma unfortunately has been shedded onto and pushed onto a symbol originally that represented a part of our country. Um, but I have family on both sides that fought in both the North and the South, and it's really bizarre. So it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
okay, I'm a little torn.
I would think that there are plenty, like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people, when they were children, thought that the Confederate flag was just a design on a car.
Yeah, that's very true. 80s, 90s,
That was the first
and
fucking thing that was the first place that I had ever remember seeing it is in Dukes of Hazzard. First place ever. And
right,
I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool thing to put on your you know, roof of the car. Like it looked cool with how it looked on the vehicle. This big old X on top. That's all it looked like to me. I didn't realize because I'm like 4 or 5 year old kid at the time, all of the history that is behind it.
right.
And then you're like, oh, well, nobody's bitching about the fact that when they show this TV show in syndication, I mean, do they blur out the flag? Is the vehicle just orange when they're driving around, or can you still see the flag?
That's a good question. I have no
Like,
idea.
I don't know. I haven't watched one of those episodes in syndication in quite some time,
I
but
think they
I wouldn't be surprised if they removed it
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did remove it or put something else on it. You
because,
know,
oh no, 5 people on Twitter are going to be upset.
right. And the thing is like that car. Like I remember seeing that too as a kid. I had seen the flag before then, but I was like, oh, weird. Why is it on the name of the car's name? General Lee.
Right.
And I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay. Like in my mind, I'm like, well, that makes sense. It is what it is. Like it's the Dukes of Hazzard. These guys are Southerners, and they're rebels, and that's like the representation of being a rebel is that Confederate flag, and that's why there's a bit of a propaganda thing with that, for sales reasons, I'm sure, but for a
Right. I
long
I
time,
mean, I
that's what it
like you
meant.
said, I don't know the reasoning behind having to put the flag on the car, but I don't think it was hey, we're going to put this on their vehicles so that everybody knows that these two Duke boys are racist.
Yeah, I think really what the it was a rebel flag was the whole representation of it. And these boys were rebels.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah, and that's what it means. It literally does still mean that. It's always been that. Oh, those rebels, and that's what they called them during the war. So the Confederates were considered the rebellion, okay, against the quote, the president, obvious reasons. So the rebel flag is, being the Confederate flag being placed on the vehicle makes sense because these guys were two outlaws allegedly in the show, and
Right.
they called it General Lee, like the South will rise again. It's that whole like novelty and propaganda to a greater extent, and that's why that show was, I mean, aside from like if you just threw all that out the window, that representation, even in passing, the show was still funny, and made fun
Right.
of it, was both mocking the South and embracing the South. It was one of those types of things, because you had all these different characters on the show, like Boss Hogg and all that crap. They made fun of him. He was
Yeah, they weren't making them look particularly smart.
no, not at all. He was kind of like a dumbass, and I think that's why the show kind of took off. It was throwing out the stigmas of dumb Southern people, which that's been around for well before the Civil War. That Southerners were stupid and undereducated. That's been going on forever. Um,
Well, yeah, that's because that's where all of the French come from.
it's, the cheap shots keep on coming, but it's true. Um,
I can't help myself.
but yeah, I mean, it's still very interesting, the history there, and just like the SGW outcry against that, I understand, especially if there's violence. And I think with the massacres that had happened in like the South Carolina regions, like that's what set off the whole like the flag being flown and all these quote representations of hate. And then you had those idiots out there with their tiki torches and shit. And I'm like,
Oh
oh
my gosh.
God, why? Who are these idiots? Whose kid is this? And I
Right.
and I understand that people want to get out there and express whatever the hell they want to express, but I didn't get any warm and fuzzy feelings about those torches. If anything, I kept thinking in the back of my mind, because you have such an outcry of policing language, like I was telling you before about the buzzwords, it's changed the way that people interact with each other. They're afraid to speak just freely and speak their mind and have an opinion about something, even if somebody else doesn't agree with it. Um, uh, I think it's important to have what do you call it, a well-rounded opinion, even if it's you saying, you know what, I have heard of this, I have a little bit of an understanding, but I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. Can you explain to me what that subject is? Like, what is that to you? Like, how do you see that? Because we
Right.
don't have those conversations, with most people, because people they're afraid to say they don't know something, so they jump on a bandwagon, or they are so pigeonholed into one set of thinking that they don't want to see any other sides to an objection. Like if someone's objecting to your stance on something, I say to you, "Oh, well, no, I don't agree with, them outlawing homeschooling. I think there should be homeschooling." Well, then you want to
Right.
know why. Well, if somebody's anti homeschooling, they immediately go into every stereotype that's associated with homeschoolers. Um, they don't go anywhere else with it. They just stay in that one stereotype. But you have to understand the opposing person. And I think that's the problem we're having now with the SGW NPC thinking and logic. And the reason why they're called NPCs, as derogatory as that word is, it's true because you have people that are like following one another very, very much like lemmings off a cliff. And
Oh
not
yeah, they go to the internet and they go, "What is today's script?"
right, absolutely. And they're not even thinking twice about it at all. They just go, well, no, the group think tells me I have to think this way, and I'm like, is this what the kind of socialism you want?
Yeah, because if you don't agree with the progressive group, then you're not woke. And if you're not woke, then you're not a good person.
And I'm thinking to
And
myself, wow.
exactly,
So
because I thought that we were like as a society, like we as a society were woke in the 90s because I thought that the definition of woke was, oh, well, you got woke, like you don't care anymore. Like it does, these things don't matter anymore. You don't have to look at a person's skin color. You don't have to worry about where they're from. Just, have a 15, 20-minute conversation with them, see what their point of view is, see how they can conversate with somebody, and then you can determine if they're a fucking idiot.
Right. And I think when you have this society where, you know, you're not allowed basically to um, question or not, I guess criticize to some extent. The thing is a lot of these, and this is to be fair, a lot of those who claim that they're woke have the best of intentions. I don't believe like there's that many people of ill will running around going, "I'm going to force you to be woke and you're a terrible person," that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't believe that. I think it's just like when people join, and this is not to bring this in and support it by any means, because I don't. If someone chooses to be a Scientologist, I don't believe that they decided to be a Scientologist because they wanted to be abusive or mean or nasty. I think, they decided to become part of something with the best of intentions. And I think that's what the, the woke community is that these are people with the best of intentions, but they get soaked into the more extremist behavior where no one is allowed to criticize or have an adjacent opinion to you, so they should be taken out and like flogged, or witch hunt, whatever you prefer, witch hunted. No offense to the Wiccans in the audience, but it is what it is. Um, they will go out and pursue those people because their opinions are different from themselves, and I think that's super dangerous in a society that's claiming to be woke. You are not woke. Thank you for showing up for being woke. Now it's time to be awake. And the awake part is understanding that there's going to be opinions and people who are going to be adjacent from you. By labeling them, you are no better than the people that you are fighting against. So if you're calling someone a Nazi, you're acting like a brown shirt yourself, you know? And that's what pisses me
Yep.
off. And you see that brown shirt mentality, and I think to myself, this is fascism in development. Every time something happens where even within the groups that claim that they're anti something, every group by nature is going to kind of eat itself at some point. I'm sure you've had, you know, what do you call it? Friends in real life or associations in real life where everybody was sane and the election happened and what did you end up with? Like what were your what were your friendship groups
Oh
like
man.
after the election of Trump? And for those that
I
listen,
mean,
this is the first time he was elected in 2016.
right. Well, I can say that I don't go on it very often, but I had a lot more fun on Facebook with the lighting of gas. Freaking hilarious. I mean, I wouldn't say that it affected my immediate group of people that I hang out with on a, let's say, daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Mhm.
Like, I still hang out with them, but it definitely made some of the people that I hang out with on a daily basis on both sides just go wacky and either believe stuff that isn't true because they come over and they just start spouting stuff. And I go, wait a second, where did you hear this from? And then they're like, Facebook. And I was like, oh my fucking God, are you shitting me? You're trying to tell me stuff that's supposed to be facts of a story and you heard it from Facebook?
Mhm.
I
It's
mean,
just
I got people that come up to me and say, yeah, I voted for the conservative in Wisconsin. I was like, okay, excellent. Her name's Tammy Baldwin. And then I got a face palm like, do you know what the word conservative means? Do you
mhm.
know what the word liberal means?
Right.
Like, do you know what any of these words fucking mean? Like, does English mean anything anymore? Do words have meaning? I don't even fucking know anymore in this day and age.
Right.
Like half of the time, people are saying stuff, and I was like, wait a second. You just told me that you determined this is how you feel about it. And then, like, you gave me the statement, this is how I feel. Then the conversation continued on, and your explanation of why you feel that way is the exact opposite of what your statement is. So, why the fuck do you feel uh, people should or shouldn't be able to do this and that? Like, you're not making any sense. You're telling me that you're conservative, and then you explain to me how you're liberal.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why people think that they know what's going on because they go on their one social media and they can see one post and they go, "Oh, Trump's racist." I was like, wait a second, do you know what racism is? Like, if you can show me an actual instance where he was racist, and then immediately it turns to, well, he wasn't overtly racist. It was subversive racism. I was like, what the fuck is that? I was like, what does that mean? Like, he he shook everyone's hand, but then when he got to the black senator, he did a bro hug or something? Or what are you talking about?
Right. Because I mean that these play on words and buzz, they're all buzzwords. They just regurgitate them and not even understand. They understand portions of it from, let's say, they went to a specific type of university or community college or whatever the case is.
Yeah, it's
Even
called UW liberal.
right. I mean, in the end, I mean, honestly, a lot when your school leans exceptionally left, that can be good and it can be bad because you're only hearing one side to an argument and you're not understanding a general. There needs to be a middle ground. There needs to be a central college, like meaning in the middle, left and right, you hear everything because in the end, politics is a poison. It controls people, it can destroy lives if it is not regulated properly. And that's government included because government is run by politicians. We like to pretend that people run them, but we've been asleep at the wheel for a while with corporations. I'm just saying lobbyists, okay?
Yeah.
So when you start looking at that cycle, these kids are not getting any valuable information aside from a point of perspective that is limited within its capacity because of feelings. And when you start name calling people and labeling them with like fascism or Nazi or being sexist or homophobic, xenophobic, whatever, pick one, homophobic, uh, that is a way of dismissing your opponent without having an actual debate. Real debates are based on facts and the point of just because you don't win a debate by screaming. And our population the United States has been rewarding bad behavior with with attention, negative or positive attention. They're still rewarding that attention, that behavior, with all this. Oh, she's such a cause for good. Yeah, but with no facts, it discredits the person that's trying to make a point. So then I go back to the question of, do you think that these individuals that are doing this name calling and and just throwing out buzzwords to virtue signal, do you think that they are authentic with their intentions, or do you think that they're doing it purely for the attention of doing so?
Oh, I, I can say feeling on this one because we ain't got to worry about the facts. I feel it's totally about the virtue. I have to show people about how I'm such a good person because I agree with this point of view.
Right.
100% to bring attention to themselves instead of just, well, what is your honest opinion on it? Or do you not have an honest opinion because you didn't do any real research? Like, I have some friends that I would talk to, and I would say, well, my one of my best friends, he might not be always up to date with the news. Sometimes he's a couple days behind or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll be talking to him about something, and he might not know the specifics about it or anything. And by the time I fill him in, I'll be like, well, He doesn't know the specifics about it, but I bet he already knows how he's going to feel about it because he understands himself and he's not going to pander to one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him the facts and then he'll say whether or not he thinks it's bullshit.
Right. And
Like he don't care if he's going to agree with me. That's not a big deal.
right.
Like it's not something that's going to change our lives. Like I would say politically, I probably lean conservative, but I tell people that I'm a libertarian that believes in war. That's the best way I know how to say it because most libertarians are like, take every troop we have around the world and bring them home. And I was like, that's not going to work. You can't do that.
Right.
Like they got to be out there specifically because we've signed treaties with a lot of the countries out there like Korea, Japan. Those are the two big ones I can think of off the top of my head where we told them we will keep troops in your country to protect you because you're not allowed to build up your military like you were then because of what you did to us.
Right.
So we can't pull the troops back legally. So it doesn't matter what your feelings are about that. That is irrelevant unless you're going to start a movement to
Mm-hmm.
get all of the country behind you so that the congressmen in the Senate and the House of Representatives and the president can all come together and be like, yep, we're going to turn into an isolationist country. So unless you're going to actually follow through with what you're going to do, you can keep your fucking mouth shut.
That's fair.
Nobody wants to follow through. They just want to go on there and say, oh, yeah, I'm for this and I'm against that, whichever one is for the air quote progressive cause, as we,
Mm-hmm.
started at the beginning. Like the progressive cause, they've totally co opted it. And it's not they aren't progressive, it's just their agenda.
Right.
How can we get more power and influence and make people think that this is the appropriate way to think about things in life because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got no problem with, I guess, you living your best life as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can go ahead and be transgender. That's fine. It's not going to affect me unless you've joined the military so the military can pay for your surgeries and you're only doing this so that you can get some attention because you weren't getting enough attention as a woman so you wanted to grow a beard. I don't fucking know. Or you weren't getting enough attention with your beard so you wanted to grow some boobs. I don't fucking know. Not all of them are doing it because they feel like they're trapped in the wrong body.
Yeah, I think that
So
there's definitely I mean I know that there are groups like the transgender and within uh, the LGBT community in general that they legitimately live these lifestyles. They either were born that way or they had a realization at some point in their life. It's different stories for different people. But in many cases of people, I get really irritated with the buzzwords of people, spouting off. Well, I'm this, therefore, I have I can, I'm bisexual, therefore, I have an opinion, and I can say this and say that. And it's like, listen, you don't need, and this is the truth in the end, is that you don't need to say that you are something to have an opinion about anything. You can.
thank you.
You just need to have facts to back it up. Don't just spout shit out because I'm going to take,
Exactly.
and that goes with anybody, like uh, paraphrasing and things like that. I understand because that's how I summarize when I'm trying to explain a point. But when you're trying to make a stance on something, it doesn't matter. Maybe to some people, oh well, he's black, therefore his opinion means more, or she's that's a woman, so therefore she has more of a her it's more relevant. Yes, I'm sure to some extent it is because it is coming from a perspective, but are they coming from the perspective of facts? And if you can have it be more fact based and perspective based too at the same time, and have it complement each other, not be 100% feelings, I'm more willing to listen to that argument because I will take absolutely into account, okay, this is your background, this is your experience, but these are your facts and your research and knowledge to share, not just feelings and hearsay, because those things don't work in a legal system, nor should they work in a general setting of believing someone for taking them at, what do you call it? Taking them at what their qualifications are versus face value. And that's very dangerous when you just start saying, oh, I'm going to go ahead and take this person's opinion as 100% face value. That's a perspective and that's an opinion and that's hearsay. So you have to be very careful with that, right? But people are always, I am transgender and I'm this, and in many cases they're actually not, and not many, that's a horrible thing to say, but in the quite a few, the screaming ones I've intermingled with and have met, they aren't. They actually are doing it for different reasons, monetarily, financially, influence, clout, whatever you want to call it. They're doing it for the attention. And I find that really disgusting to the people who are actually experiencing these things in their life, you know what I mean, naturally, like every day, you know. I've talked about this with people with disabilities and those who do struggle with disabilities and do have problems versus the ones that self-diagnose and then run around. It pisses me off because it hurts those who actually need help or need assistance or just need the support. You know, the squeaky wheels seem to get the grease in our culture, and I think that that's sad. It's a terrible thing because those, like, you know, you and I have talked about this before, actually, um, about when somebody is suicidal. A lot of cases of people who are suicidal, they don't take it to a public arena. You there, PB? Uh oh. Oh shit. You there?
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Whew. I was like, shit. Did it disconnect on me? Oh well. Oh well. One small edit. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry. Um. Yeah.
90% of what you had said.
Okay. But it's the same kind of thing we talked about, people who commit suicide and things like that, and the ones who actually are in need of support, and a lot of times they don't turn to many people in a public arena in a very public way. It's more anonymous and uh, limited to some extent. There's those phrases we've heard before. Well, like the ones who are going to commit suicide are the ones who are just going to go do it. And there are
Right.
red flags and things like that, though, that can warn you that they're heading down that path. Um, but I have seen some of the worst behavior from people pretending, and I say pretending because they're mentally unstable, but they weren't suicidal. And they were taking advantage of the empathy and support that they found in social media to, and to be completely honest, gaslight the hell out of people after the fact. And it was absolutely the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. I've seen it happen a few
Aha.
times. It happens on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, where I'm going to kill myself, and it goes on and on and on. And by the end of it, they're back to where they wanted to be because they got, three or four or five people talking to them in DMs at that point, and they've
Yep.
gotten the necessary attention that they desired, and then they go right back to it again a week later, you know, and then they gaslight people who said, well, didn't you just have some rough patches last week? And, are you did you seek out counseling or did you do these things? And they said, oh, no, no, no. I don't remember anyone telling me that. It's like this. I was like, oh my God, it was terrible. There are real people out there
Yep.
who need help, who have thoughts of self harm. And they need the support that you're taking away by being an asshole. So don't be an asshole to those people. If you need help, seek counseling. It's not the easiest thing, but some people think it's easy to go to counseling. But if you have problems and you actually are dealing with things, it can be very scary to go into counseling to talk to somebody you don't really know very well. But counselors are trained to help you. So if as a public service message, if you ever find yourself in a position of feeling like you might do harm to yourself, reach out to someone that you love. Don't take it to a social media platform. go to someone that's closest to you. Seek help in those ways. Those are healthier ways. You can have more one on one. Go to someone that you trust. Don't take it to a public arena screaming in town square, because there's a good chance that you might actually be ignored, or um, if you're in that position, seek immediate assistance. Look for suicide. There's a suicide hotline. There's family members. If you don't have family, if you don't have friends, there's always someone out there who's willing to help you, and they're not gonna, judge you and mistreat you because you're going through a hard time. It's absolutely unnecessary to think that you're alone, but we all do. We all have that feeling as humans. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because uh, I have lost friends to different things involving suicide, and uh, I had no idea they were going through what they were going through. Um, this is before social media. Okay, it really blew up. And so it's not being able, I had no idea they were in that position, and they hadn't reached out to anyone in their lives because they felt that isolated. Social media has become this town crier atmosphere, and I'm sure between the politics and our personal lives, these things all come full circle. But it's made it much more difficult too, with all of the different voices, to get facts and understand the differences in reality.
Oh,
On
yeah, you
you
would
know,
think that almost all of social media is full of girls and wolves.
Aha! It's true. There's so much of that.
It's chasing me, it's chasing me. Okay, no, I'm fine.
Oh my god. And that's the thing, is like there's just so much nonsense, and it's like some of it's funny. I love some good internet humor. I enjoy memes. I enjoy a little bit of dank humor, not too much extreme for me though. I like my light dank, if you will. But
Yes.
yeah, I can only handle so much of it. But at the same time, I recognize that that's forms of humor, and I don't get offended. I don't get pissed. I only get irritated and pissed off when it's just being a jackass and you're actually hurting someone, meaning you're going out of your way to bully a specific individual or group, and targeting people. Um, but as far as,
Right, like people will take any opportunity of a, let's not say crisis, but any real life scenario to co opt it for themselves. Because I don't remember which college it was, but it's one of the ones in Michigan
mm-hmm,
where they decided that they needed to know everybody's specific pronouns so that the teachers wouldn't offend somebody by saying the wrong pronoun. I got no problem with that inherently, but that needs to be a personal basis type thing. Like, hey, I didn't realize that you are a woman and I accidentally said he, and then you corrected me, and now I'm going to say she the rest of the time. Okay, not a big deal.
mm-hmm,
So they put on, I don't know if it was the admission form or the signing up for classes form, but like right at the, start of the year type thing,
mm-hmm,
it was write down what your pronouns are. And in the school bylaws, it was written out that all of the teachers have to call you by your pronouns. So one of the students was like, oh, well, I can put anything in the pronouns, right?
mm-hmm.
So he put king.
I remember this. I remember this.
Exactly.
Yep.
So people are going to take stuff like this and exploit it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people are absolutely going to get lost in the wash if you're just going to go into the public forum and start spouting off, oh, I had a terrible week and I might, do something terrible to myself. And you're like, well, that's what you said last month. Next, please. And then it actually happens and you're like, oh, well, that was the sixth time that he, she, it said something, so I didn't know that this time was the real time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am not going to feel like the asshole because you kept on saying it over and over again, and I helped you the first five times, but or maybe only the first two times, and then the last three times I ignored it because I fucking told you to get help. I tried to help you to get help, and you either didn't want it or it wasn't what you were looking for. And then things changed a little bit, and then you did something and harmed yourself. Well, that's unfortunate, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't cause you to do that.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I don't believe that the vast majority of people that this happens to get bullied into hurting themselves. Yeah, you may have gotten bullied by a person here, a person there. I got bullied when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I was the fat kid all the way through school. And yeah, that's got nothing to do with your gender. It's got nothing to do with your skin color, but it's a thing that you bully kids over. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to really be able to do anything about it. I don't know how to get myself in shape when I'm 7 years old. I don't know how to do that.
Mhm.
You're just going to be a fat kid. What are you going to do? Well, just roll with the jokes or, make it a joke. If
Mhm.
they're going to say something fucking asshole-ish, you've got to turn it into a joke so that you don't feel bad about yourself. I
Right.
mean, I'm not a gigantic fucking person, but I'm not sitting here rocking a fucking six pack. This is
Mhm.
Wisconsin. I got a fucking quarter keg here.
Well, the truth is like everyone. I was bullied in school, and it's the same thing. You have to. I think bullying is going to be in life because there's going to be jobs. Even as an adult, as a young adult into adulthood, I've had jobs where I was bullied by employers, other coworkers. It wasn't all the time, but when it did pop off, I knew how to handle it because of the lessons you learn as a young person, meaning
Exactly.
how to verbally do a comeback without number one just cursing because that's too easy. Um,
Right.
yes, if I could just tell my boss to go fuck himself, it would be great, but that doesn't work that way. So you have to do it. You have to do it in a very educated way, and and you have to be better than them because if you fall to their level, that's what they want. They want you below them, actually. But if you can rise yourself above that, that's the last thing they want. If they're going to continue to act that way, just you're smarter than them. Find an advantage. Find a way to protect yourself. It's like, there's I would say right now in modern 2019, there's a shit ton of ways of protecting yourself legally. There's a ton of ways to protect yourself more so now than it was when we were kids. And a lot of
Right.
this, there's always going to be red tape. And that just, just because we have modern advances doesn't mean the modern obstacles haven't competed, of course. But there are definitely more avenues as long as you're paying attention to protecting yourself in any environment with any type of bully. Now, I think that some children have been pushed to suicide because of things of bullying online. Yes, I do, but at the same time, there's other things that were connected to that, like maybe a pre existing mental instability, right?
Right.
Maybe the household's already had forms of abuse. Maybe that child has been, I don't know, I guess, presented with violent atmospheres or being around an environment that just provoked them into forms of depression and stuff like that. But, for a lot of those students, and younger people, I'm like, go to your counselor. I did when I was young, and it was very helpful, and it got me on the right track because it's not always easy to figure out things. It's not. Yeah, I got very depressed when I moved from like the east to the west coast. It was a whole nother world, and I did not fit in. Never have, and that's okay. Like,
I don't think anybody fits in out there unless you're wearing a rainbow.
dude, it wasn't even like that when I was there. It was conservative. I lived in a community that had a lot of religious groups living there that
Oh,
and
okay.
I was
One of
not
them.
and I was not religious. I didn't know what the hell this was about. Okay. And I didn't fit in with that. And there was a lot of inherent racism that went on and not towards it wasn't well it wasn't towards me. It was in pieces but not entirely, but it was like I got into a couple fights and things like that. And I wasn't fighting girls, I was fighting boys and shit like that because I wasn't raised to believe that women were less than, and they did. So that was fun, and so
Oh, sure.
I had to be managed. So I was made into a teacher's assistant and a counselor's aide to keep me out of trouble because I was definitely in trouble from the moment I got there because I didn't like racism. I couldn't stand it. Just because I came from the East Coast does not mean I embrace uh, uh, what the stigmas and stereotypes were. And I was certainly not stupid. Young and naive, yes, but not dumb. And those were hard adjustments. And so I sought help. I realized, you know what, I'm not going to make it if I keep, if I keep living here, I'm either going to hurt someone, I mean, really hurt someone, or hurt myself, being this way. So when you recognize that you have a problem, don't be afraid to go to somebody. I think, once again, PR, like the more you know. I don't have my soundboard hooked up, otherwise I would have already hit it. Um,
Oh, that's okay.
it's sad. Opportunity lost. But but those are the things that are important for younger people. I think the problem is society is trying to push it on that people online should be 100% responsible at all times to care about, like, this, village raises a child shit, and you don't have all the facts when you're getting involved in that. I'm not saying ignore it, but I definitely suggest reporting it immediately. Not letting these things go on. And it's, for some people it's entertainment, like you were saying. There's always going to be one person that comes in. I'm going to be called king. Yeah, the,
Yep.
it's always going to be that person that's going to come in there and add in 2 cents that are unnecessary. That's unfortunately the way human nature is. There's always going to be somebody just kind of poking the bear and not understanding a situation for full facts. So if you see something, it's more than just it's about making sure that individual gets the assistance and help they need. And you know, people tend to lie a lot online too. So if someone is, there's a lot of the lying, especially younger people, about their backgrounds and how they look and all this other shit because they have so much pressure to be something that they're not. So the woke community has done no favors for a lot of facets of society that are still and have always been a problem despite all of the equality that's been called for. It's ridiculous. Um, but anyway, I want to thank you very much, though, PB, for hanging out and having this long conversation. I think you're the longest.
Oh, I was glad to be here. Very glad to be here. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, thank you so much. I know I rattled on for a while, but I was like, oh, this is this and blah blah blah, But you start talking about shit, and you're like, well, this is, everything leads into each other. There's always something interesting that leads into it. And we talked about this woke crap for a long time, like off and on, like there's different topics. And I was like, this would be a good topic to talk with PB about because I had reflected on it for a couple of days. I'm like, it always goes back to that. In the end, it's about, how we grew up, places we grew up, but also those relationships with people that obviously helped us become who we are. But the woke culture thing is trying to dismiss reality, at the same time
Yep.
embracing the negativity and pushing in stigmas and taking us back in time and in negative ways, not in progressive ways. And it's hurting communities, it's hurting people on a personal level, whether it's within friend groups or if it's just online life. Because we do have two lives now. It's really strange, in a weird way. Not like two different people, but we definitely have different lives. We lead a very different life online in some cases than we do in person day to day, you know. But
No, I get exactly what you mean.
yeah,
And I just have one more thing that I wanted to add before we wrap this up.
sure.
And it was, I would say that everybody out there in, whatever race, creed, religion, origin you are not entitled to your opinion if your opinion is based on false information. Because I get real agitated when everybody says, well, you can't tell me what to think. It's my opinion. And I was like, you're right. I can't tell you what to think. That's true. But your opinion has been formed on incorrect information. So don't talk to me about this subject until you have the right information.
Right. And I think that's fair because in the end, all it becomes is opinions. Everyone has one. I hate the phrase personal truth. Oh
Yes.
my God. Like that phrase
No,
alone.
it's just the truth.
Yes, the truth exists. This is the thing about truth. The truth exists without your permission. It exists without a party. It exists without a country. The truth stands alone. It doesn't need your goddamn permission or your feelings to exist. It exists. It doesn't care what you feel. It doesn't care what I feel. The truth is just, it is ugly sometimes, it is brutal, it can be savage as hell, but the truth is just simply there. It doesn't need, it breathes itself. It doesn't need any of the fucking pomp and vigor of being online in a social media platform. It doesn't need that. The truth will exist with or
Nope.
without you. And just because we don't have truth in a lot of things right now doesn't mean that it won't be here tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that it'll never show up. It will. The truth always finds a way to make its appeal. The difference is how much attention will it get in a public forum? Who the hell cares? Because in the end, people are only going to listen. Once again, like going back to what you said, if their opinions are formulated on improper or incorrect or not truthful facts, um, then it doesn't matter. The truth can be there in their face, and they would be so caught up in those emotions. They're their own. They are their own forest fire.
Yep.
you know. But anyway,
Absolutely.
I want to thank you though very much, Pop Culture PB, for coming on. I'm gonna have his links popping up on the screen so you'll be able to see his channel and his Twitter, and to check out his.
Ooh,
Yes, fancy. I'll be adding in some fancy. It should be around here somewhere. Yeah, and
cool.
that way people can check out your content and check out your Twitter and give you a follow on Twitter. That way they can stay updated on what you're up to and what streams you're popping in on. Because you're on. Do you have anything going on this week, or even the next week actually? Uh, any streams you're expected to pop on? I know you're usually on with Lee on the late night
Well, as
talks.
far as, yeah, we got that coming, and then I think on Sunday I'm gonna be on with Proper Jeremy again for his monetization celebration stream.
Oh, proper. Yep. Yeah, proper's now monetized. Congrats to him. But
Yep.
it'll be awesome. So everyone can check out PB on Proper's channel and also on General Zod's Fandom Zone. He pops in there almost every night. Sometimes we're
I'm supposed to be there every night.
it's just life gets at it life comes at you hard. You know what I mean? It comes at you fast
Yep.
and things happen, but you will always find PB though lingering on the actual panel or in chat on Lee's late night streams. It was usually about midnight Central Standard Time, roughly to 1 o'clock in the morning, and then he streams until like the wee hours of the morning, action packed, and I pop on that as well. But anyway, thanks so much, PB. Everyone, check out his links, check out the channels, and have a great afternoon.
Talk to you later.